Welcome back to another episode of Stitch and Skill Saturdays. So last time we were together, you made your first row. I actually went ahead and extended mine just so it would be easier for you to see in today's demonstration. So in our last episode, we made a chain and we single crocheted down the chain. And so all I did was add on a couple more rows because I wanted you to see what it's supposed to look like when you add on. In order to add on, you need to learn an important skill, and that is turning your work. And so that's what we're going to practice today. So in order to turn your work, you're at the end of your chain. And so if you pulled out your yarn, that's fine. Go ahead and pause the video and catch up. I now have a chain of 15 because, again, I just wanted it to be longer and I wanted you to be able to see very clearly what it's supposed to look like. Okay, so now that you have your chain of whatever number you chose and you have done your row of single crochet down the chain, here is how you're going to add on because you need to turn your work in order to do that. And so what that means is, in the case of us working with single crochets, it means that you would chain one and then turn your work. So I'm going to pull that out and show you that one more time. Okay, I have my yarn in my hook. I'm at the very end of my chain, as you can see. There's nowhere else for me to go. So I've chained all. I have 14 stitches, by the way. So I chain one. Well, I chain one in order to then keep my work even and be able to work back down the chain. So I have my chain, and it allows me to keep my 14 stitches. If I didn't chain one, what would happen? I would end up chaining down 13 stitches and then 12 stitches. And then before you know it, you've got a very crooked project, which does happen, even to the best of us. But here's how we're going to try to mitigate that. We're going to use our stitch markers. So after we've chained one, okay, we've got our chain in here, we turn our work. And when you turn your work, you're able to see your stitches very clearly. Take a look at that. Those are your stitches, those V's. So after I've turned my work, now I can begin to single crochet into the very first stitch. And you know from practicing that you insert your hook, pull up a loop, and pull through both. Right? We're going to go into the next stitch, do the same thing. And this is 2. We're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. Okay. We're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through. So what I want to make sure I do, though, is in this very first stitch, let's go back, because I've made 3 stitches. So if I were to count back, 1, 2, 3, this is my very first stitch. And here's why it's really important that you know where your first stitch is. I'm going to put a marker in here, because when you get ready to return, it's what I had said. If you are dropping stitches, your project will be crooked. And I'll actually do a video on what that looks like in one of the Stitch and Skill Saturday sessions. But for now, I would rather just show you what it is instead of showing you what it's not supposed to be. So we're going to put a stitch marker in that first stitch, because then that's going to let us know that this is where we end when we come back to put our last stitch. Okay, so let's continue. We have 3 stitches. So this is my 4. See, 5. I'm going in the stitch, yarning over and pulling pulling through. Here's my stitch. I'm inserting my hook. I'm yarning over and pulling through, okay? By now you're a pro at this, so let's just finish the row. I'm going to count quietly because I don't want to throw you off. I told you I made 14, but you may have a different number, okay? So let's just continue and I'll meet you at the end. Actually, I'm going to pull this out so that you can see that I'm about to work into the very last stitch. Here is my very final stitch. So I am going to work into that stitch just the same, okay? Do my single crochet. And we're here at the very end now. Just like we were here, we're now at the very end of our row here. So what we're going to do is chain one, and you guessed it, we're gonna turn our work, okay? We're gonna turn our work. That way we can work back down, and what's gonna happen is we're gonna end up working our way back down to that stitch marker. And that's why we have the marker there, because when you get to it, that's how you know, oh, here's my last stitch. Let's make sure I stitch in here. I actually put a crochet stitch in here and that I don't miss it so that I can keep my project straight, okay? So let's do that again. Let's work our way down the chain with your single crochets. Okay, and when I get to the end, I pull out my stitch marker and I insert my stitch, right? That way I know, okay, I've made it to the end. I did forget to tell you to put a stitch marker on this side. So I'm just gonna go ahead, I'm gonna cheat a little bit, forgive me. I'm gonna go ahead and put the stitch marker in this very first stitch here. That way you'll be able to see what's gonna happen when we get there, same as before. So just take a look at this, okay? As you can see, so the single crochet creates a very pretty like basket weave type of pattern. It's very pretty. It takes some time, especially if you have a larger project, but it could be very worth it because look at how pretty the stitches are. So let's do that again. Let's work through that one more time together, and then you'll be practicing this until we meet again. So we had our chain one, okay, our chain one, turn our work, and then we crochet. See, this is where the hook is. This is our chain one. We crochet into the very first stitch, okay? And actually, I'm going to be a good doobie and go ahead and mark it right now with my stitch marker. So you go ahead and you put your stitch marker in, and now you can continue down your chain. And here's what's nice, especially for those of us who sometimes get distracted and forget to count. You don't have to worry about it because you have your stitch markers that let you know exactly where to end. So if you're someone who gets easily distracted like myself, it's so helpful to use these tools because then you don't have to worry if you have stopped counting because you have the markers to tell you where to end. Let's go ahead and finish this row together. Keep in mind, I have more rows than you because I did start to work on the project a little sooner, just because I wanted you to have something that you could see that you were aspiring to. Okay. And now I'm here at the last stitch in the row. And so I am going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, pull through both loops, and there we are. So this is what your single crochet will produce. And what you have right now are even, straight-ish, you know, they're stitches, edges. But we'll talk about how to make this even prettier in the future. But for now, this is what you're aspiring to. So this is where I'm going to leave you. I want you to practice your chain, right? I want you to chain up whatever number you'd like, and then practice your single crochet, and then practice your chain one, turn your work. And you may even end up continuing on in order to create yourself, perhaps, you know, a little coaster. You can end it wherever you like. It all depends on the yarn that you're using. If you are using acrylic yarn, which is what I'm using right now, then, you know, acrylic is not that absorbent. So I don't know if I would suggest a coaster, but for the sake of practice, and especially if acrylic is all you have, you could certainly do that. Okay. But I think if you just continue to practice this and perfect this technique, then when we move on to other stitches, you will be in a really good place. So this is where I'll leave you until the next Stitch and Skill Saturday. Bye.